Hello, everybody. Welcome to Regular Nintendo here on Bossman Network. I'm your host, the Enlightened Excited Eddie B. Joining me is the one, the only Bossman himself, Mr. Corey Dirrig. Hello, good sir.
Hello, I'm ready to plug in my Game Boy player and get 4,000 chords together to play Game Boy Player on Nintendo GameCube on my TV. Pac-Man World.
And we have the awesome author herself, Mrs. Stephanie.
Hello.
Hello, everybody. We are ranking GameCube. Get ready for an episode because this is the one that a lot of people have been looking for. I know we're going to be talking about some facts, some of the accessories, and some of the games. And I think we have some reactions, right, Corey? Some feedback?
We do. We have a couple things from Twitter to read, so very excited for that.
Okay. But before we go, Corey, would you like to plug our Patreon producers?
I suppose I can do that, everybody. You can support Standard Definition as well as other shows directly by heading over to our Patreon page, patreon.com/BossRushNetwork, a monthly subscription service where you can directly contribute to your favorite creators. We offer 2 tiers right now, the $1 tier, which is early access to 5 shows now. But if you want a Patreon producer credit, you get early access plus a shout out during this segment of this episode. So without further ado, our Patreon producers for this episode of Standard Definition Ranking Nintendo GameCube Edition are Adriel Munger, Celeste Roberts, my wife, Sana Dirrig, Francisco Santillan, Rebecca Jewell, and Prince Unsmooth Toes. I want to thank all of our Patreon producers. I want to thank all of our patrons. I want to thank all of our free listeners. Remember, all of our content remains free. You just get things a little early. So, also, if you're listening to this on the Nintendo Pal Block feed, you can head on over to the Standard Definition podcast feed and get this an entire month early.
Hoo-hoo.
Trying to get eyes on this on the Standard Definition feed, everybody. Just trying real hard here.
And you know what, guys? Like, it really is a good podcast, Standard Def. So I really hope we can spread the word and have people check it out. There's a lot of variety there.
Also, by the time a lot of people hear this, Mark, our co-host on the Disney animated series and the MCU, will have had his child. So congratulations, Mark.
Congratulations.
Yay. So
Congrats, Mark.
Yeah. Yes. Very proud of Mark, Mr. Dad.
Yeah. So, yeah, you're right. I'm glad you mentioned it. The Disney episodes will be taking a brief hiatus under Standard Def, but we will return.
Disney shall return, because he
Can't
always
get rid
does.
of Disney.
Nope. Anyways, thank you, patrons. Back to you, Edward Varnell.
All right, everybody. Let's jump into this discussion about the GameCube. It was codenamed Dolphin when it was first announced, and it was priced at $199.99. It could have 4 controller ports and 2 memory card slots, with also in the back something for Ethernet cord to go online. I believe
Online Nintendo.
What?
No way.
What?
Yes.
Sorry, I got excited.
They had a mini disc, and some games, were contain 2 discs that you can get the full game. So, like games like Tales of Symphonia used 2 discs with it. It was released in Japan on September 14th, 2001, America on November 18th, 2001, Europe on May 3rd, 2002, and Australia on May 17th, 2002. It sold 21.75 million worldwide, and the best-selling game was Super Smash Bros. Melee with 7.9 million. There's also a Panasonic Cube, which was the DVD GameCube, but that was only released in Japan. From 2001 to 2007, there was over 600 games for the Nintendo GameCube.
Can we just talk? Wait, can we rewind and talk about the Panasonic Cube real quick and how ugly that thing is?
I love it.
It looks like somebody
Yes.
broke a GameCube and found all like broken pieces of an erector set and just
It looks
glued
like
them
a-
on.
It looks like a mailbox that you go in and dump mail because of the overhead part.
It's awful.
But I like the way that it looks and how it looks in the light, and I think it's that silver, but that silver metal that's on it that I like.
Oof, that thing is it's an interesting piece of history that nobody should ever look at again.
Yes, I mean it was the way for them to play CDs and DVDs, but we never got it here. And I kind of heard like when you had to get it repaired, it was kind of difficult to get it repaired. But there wasn't too many that was sold because I think after a couple of months, Panasonic discontinued it and everything.
Yeah.
So
Well, yeah. Remember, everybody, Nintendo broke up with Sony to go with this abomination of a console. So just gonna throw that out there. And the 64DD. So just
who did
imagine
the CDI?
just imagine, everybody, if Nintendo and Sony stayed together and the PlayStation and the Nintendo ecosystems were one. Just one nice ecosystem, and then obviously Sega would be dead, so you'd have that system in there too. Gosh, man, just imagine Uncharted, Nathan Drake wearing his Zelda gear. That'd be awesome. Just throwing that out
But
there.
then where does Sony go as a company? Because they have Columbia.
Doesn't matter. They have
the
Nintendo
music
money
division.
now. It just doesn't matter.
Do you think Nintendo would have brought Sony or invested money into Sony?
I don't know. It's
Or
look,
it's just an
it's
expression past that.
this is an expansion pass. Just gonna throw that under the. Just put that in the file. We're just gonna put it right here. It was more of a hypothetical. What's the question that you don't need an answer to? What's that called? I forget. Anyways, we're like, you ask the question, but you already know the answer, and nobody.
Rhetorical?
Yeah, that one. Thank you. Writer over here, author knows her English words. Anyways, I'm having a good time. So yeah, I don't know. I think, and this is where Nintendo really found itself creatively, backed up against the wall here, right? Because this was really the last time Nintendo created a console to compete with the other platforms, right? Where technologically it was on par, right? It had the same games. Power wise, it was actually more powerful than both of them, but using the mini discs never really took off, So but yeah, I mean the GameCube, like we got a lot of great stuff from the GameCube, specifically like later, because they were losing. And when your competitor outsells you 6-1 lifetime, it's like we got to do something different here. And I know, and we'll probably talk more on this when we get to the Wii, but like the GameCube was a turning point for Nintendo, and I think a lot of people thought Nintendo was going to be done. This is when the Nintendo should go third party conversations really started happening, because PlayStation was really eating its lunch, and then Xbox was really taking off with Halo and Fable and Knights of the Old Republic. Like they had games Western gamers wanted to play, Bethesda games.
Yeah, this was the PlayStation 2 era, right? I think
Yep.
it came out 1 year before.
After.
After? Yeah. So, oh yeah. Sorry, got switched. And that's kind of where I'll admit I feel a bit guilty being a part of this conversation, because I'm primarily a Nintendo person. I had a lot to offer when it came to Game Boy Color, and N64. But at this generation, I don't remember. Anyway, but I wanted one that played DVDs. So when the PlayStation 2 came out, I'm like, so I went with PlayStation 2 because it could play DVDs. And then when GameCube came out, it was a budget.
The reason? which was the reason why PlayStation 2 sold so much
That's
because it was a DVD player.
It's why the Dreamcast
To a
died.
lot of people.
You know, I mean that's the reason. Dreamcast came out, and like literally like a couple weeks after the Dreamcast came out, they announced that the PlayStation was going to have a DVD player, and then everybody's like, "Well, I'm going to save my money because DVDs are going to be a thing, and this is going to be the cheapest one." You know, that's why I got one. That and like I saw my friend play Madden on PS2 for the first time. I was like, "Oh my gosh, games will never look better than this." It was one of those moments. But then like the GameCube was coming, and I loved my Nintendo 64. I was like, well, and then like that awesome, like we talk about this all the time, the Space World demos, right? That they showed off that at E3 before GameCube came out. They showed that new Zelda game, which ended up not ever coming out. Tell me where you heard that before. Wii U. You know, and they showed Mario 128, which turned into Pikmin, and Luigi's Mansion, and I don't think they showed Samus doing something, right? But they didn't. It wasn't officially Metroid Prime, but they showed Samus
Prime.
And someone's calling Ed. Hollywood.
Go ahead.
So yeah, I mean they showed a lot of great. Rogue Squadron was like the game you had to have. Like at the time, Rogue Squadron 2 looked better than the movie. You know, and that was a huge draw to the GameCube. And then we got, you know, weird stuff like Eternal Darkness and Bat and Kados, and you know, we started getting all the dead Dreamcast ports like Sonic Adventure DX and Skies of Arcadia Legends and Crazy Taxi, and which don't get me wrong, like I love having Dreamcast games on my GameCube, right? Because I love the Dreamcast, but yeah, I always wondered why the GameCube did not do better, because the way, and I think it's a lot of weird revisionist history from people, but like the way people talk about GameCube, you would have thought the GameCube sold 200 million units, right? Mm-hmm. You know, the way people talk about Metroid Prime, Wind Waker, even Sunshine to an extent, Smash is still the biggest thing on the planet, right? Because of the GameCube version. Animal Crossing started there, you know, like it's just, it always boggled my mind why the GameCube didn't sell more than 21 million units.
Right, and I think the game you mentioned, Zelda, like Wind Waker, I would like to think that that's almost like a game analogy. Wind Waker, when it first came out, everyone was pissed off. And it wasn't like popular. It didn't sell well in the beginning, but now, speaking of revisionist history, people look back and Wind Waker is one of the most beloved ones. We want it to come back to the Switch. So I think of like the GameCube as like a console embodiment, which came out on the GameCube. Sorry.
That's fine.
Well, the thing about it is that so many people were to the PlayStation ecosystem. They feel like that's where games were needed to go, and
the games weren't coming out on PlayStation yet. Like the first major game to come out on PlayStation was Final Fantasy X, and that was 2002.
I love that game.
You know, like, and
Kingdom Hearts.
Kingdom Hearts 1 was also 2002, I think. And by the way, 2002 for the PlayStation 2 was a huge year. It was like, I think God of War 1 came out that year. You know, but I mean, when you look at the PlayStation, like PlayStation at the time didn't really have very many first party games to like, you know, for people to get excited about. Like it was, you know, Jack and Daxter, which, you know, is it's a fun platformer, right? Ratchet and Clank, Sly Cooper, God of War. And then, you know, you had weird stuff like Eco and Shadow of the Colossus, which now people, I mean, Shadow of the Colossus is the same way, right? Where people, revisionist history, you would have thought that game sold like 30 million units, and it sold less than 1 million on the PS2. So like, it's just, I don't understand, and granted, this might just be a Nintendo fan in me talking, but like, if you compare libraries to the GameCube and the PS2, I don't understand how the PlayStation 2 sold so much, except for the fact that it had the DVD player in it. You know.
Well, it was the thing that I won't say the NCC4, but everybody had that idea of, growing up, they're a little bit like in the adult and college age, that Nintendo is just for kids. That's the idea of it. But now, all those people who are like in an older age who missed the GameCube, it's like, oh, wow. A lot of people who went through the PlayStation 2 era don't speak about PlayStation 2. They speak about the sports games, is maybe some of the third-party games and stuff. But then when it comes to that GameCube era of games and stuff, a lot of people be like, man, I want to play Mario Kart. I want to play.
Yeah, but they had the mature games. GameCube had the mature games people wanted. Like, they had the Resident Evil remake. They had Resident Evil 4 exclusively for a long time, right? Like, I still have my Resident Evil 4 box for GameCube that says only on GameCube, right? Like, I still have that. And, they turned Metroid into a first-person shooter, which were on the rise with Halo at the time. Eternal Darkness was weird. Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes was out, which was, like, an awesome exclusive for them. Granted, Twin Snakes isn't exactly, like, people aren't really raising the flag for it now or anything, but, like, at the time, before it came out, a remake of the first Metal Gear, especially after Metal Gear Solid 2 came out, and people, everybody thinks that game's awesome, but remember at the time, people were mad because you didn't play a snake in that game. Spoilers for Metal Gear Solid 2, everybody, sorry.
How dare you?
I know. But at a time where people were mad at Metal Gear Solid 2 and wanted to play as Snake, to get the first game in the gameplay style of the second game exclusive on Nintendo console was huge. Huge.
Yeah.
And so, like, I know the PlayStation 2 was a great console. It had a lot of great games, but just comparing the libraries to this, like, I don't understand how the PlayStation 2 sold I can understand if it sold more than GameCube. I get that, but, like, 7 times the amount of the GameCube? 144 million to 21 million.
Well, you got to think about sports. JRPGs. It was getting a lot of content from third party. Then
I
Nintendo
get that,
was.
but so was GameCube was also getting it.
But you got to realize, people felt like PlayStation was for the adult gamer, and Nintendo was just too kiddie. I'm not saying N64 is the reason to blame for it, but some people were just like, I'm not into Nintendo no more because they're not giving me what I am looking for. They weren't looking for Mario Kart. They weren't looking for Smash. They were looking for the stuff that PlayStation for third party was offering. But the thing about you look at it now, that do PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, even PlayStation 5. No one is really talking about the PlayStation 2 era.
No,
Squaresoft had already jumped to PlayStation with PS1 and stayed there. Like, Nintendo wasn't getting anything from Square, so they.
We got Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, sir.
But yes, it literally took a while for Square Enix to come back. We were just so Stephanie, before you came in, we were talking about, there's an article on Nintendo Live that says Square Enix, what's going on, because for the Nintendo Direct, Square Enix putting a lot of games out on Switch. So in the article, it's kind of feel like Square Enix is going back to Nintendo in a sense, because it was their big money maker for them. So a lot of games that's coming out for Nintendo, you would think that these should be more on PlayStation and less on Nintendo. No, Nintendo's getting a whole bunch of games for Square Enix for Switch, and we don't know why things has changed. So if you look at PS2, that was kind of the thing about it. It's just like, you have some of the biggest third party on the system. So if we're gonna put a lot of our games on for third party, we'll do there. Nintendo for some people were just to experiment stuff. In a sense, and that same mentality, if you put a game on Nintendo, Nintendo comes out with the game, you're going to lose in sales, and it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't like that. It literally shouldn't have been like that. Resident Evil 4 changed the way how that series went before Resident Evil 7, and yeah, it didn't sell well or anything, and that's because people didn't really invest in the GameCube. But now look down. How many people who've never played GameCube or who own a Switch now want the whole GameCube library on Switch?
Mm-hmm. No,
No one has even said that. No one has said that for Xbox, and no one has said that for PlayStation 2. When the for
well,
that era
to be
of
fair,
games.
the Master Chief Collection is on Xbox already, so that was the whole library for the Xbox.
Pretty much for Xbox, yeah.
No, but I mean,
like
to be fair though, like
okay.
Xbox is doing a lot of great backwards compatibility things, and so like the best
Mhm.
games from the original Xbox era are still available on the Xbox Series consoles, right? Like I could name you like five games on the Xbox that are worth owning for the platform, and it's obviously Halo 1 and 2, Fable, Knights of the Republic 1 and 2, and Oddworld Stranger's Wrath are like the 6 or 7 games I would say is worth owning an Xbox for, you know? I mean, what are you going to brute force? No thanks. Um what was that weird zombie game that they made? Uh that was the only other game ever built on the Halo engine. Gosh, they just got a
Grab by the goodies.
no, it just got a remake. It just got a remaster from THQ. Anyways, but then like
The Aliens one.
no, I'll think of it later. But the PlayStation 2, okay, now that I'm kind of looking through the library and I kind of forgot how much important stuff actually came to the PS2, so kind of scratch what I said earlier a little bit, but the Grand Theft Auto 3 trilogy was like a massive thing for PlayStation.
Yeah.
Bully, Final Fantasy 10, 10 2, and 12. Gran Turismo was at the height of its popularity with A-Spec.
Mm-hmm.
Dragon Quest 8 was huge when it came out. Kingdom Hearts was huge when it came out. Persona 3 and 4 were both released on the PlayStation 2, which, not as big as it is now, but that was the start of something for them, right? Jak and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank, Shadow of the Colossus, Ico, Devil May Cry was huge on the PlayStation 2, exclusive, by the way. Man, remember how big that first Devil May Cry game was? Oh,
yeah,
crazy. Guitar Hero was huge on the PS2, and it never came to GameCube, so like that was the height of the music stuff. So I mean, to me, like besides GTA and like the Metal Gear sequels, which both eventually came to Xbox, like it just feels like the GameCube never like it should have sold more based on this library alone. Because like I'm sitting here looking at the GameCube, like I mean we all know the heavy hitters for GameCube, right? Like Double Dash, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, Smash, Luigi's Mansion, Pokemon, Tales of Symphonia, Paper Mario, Kirby Air Ride, Metroid Prime 1 and 2, 3 Resident Evil games, Fire Emblem, which Path of Radiance is still highly considered one of the best Fire Emblem games if you're into the hardcore versions of Fire Emblem. We got the Master Quest for Zelda. We got Pikmin 1 and 2, Eternal Darkness, Rogue Squadron 2 and 3, Star Fox Assault, Star Fox Adventures. I mean, the list can go on. We got 3 Mario Party games, a Wario World. Like the output for GameCube is like astonishingly high.
It's very impressive for sure. Yes.
So like, like you put all that stuff together and you throw in Eternal Darkness and stuff like Beyond Good and Evil and Skies of Arcadia Legends and the Capcom 5, which was the Capcom 4, which was the games that came everywhere after that. Like, the GameCube was just lighting it up. The best version of Soul Calibur 2, right? With Link, right? Like, that was insane that they actually let Link go in there and do that, right? I always get upset when I see the GameCube sales numbers, and I'm like, God, come on. Like, why didn't anybody buy this console? I did. I got it day one because it came out on my birthday, and my parents bought it for me at Babbage's.
And I bought my own GameCube because I had a job at that time. I got the black one, and it was just. It was just something that people like I said, the mind frame that system is too kiddie and the games are not for them. But the thing about, I think people weren't into the tight gameplay, the innovative IPs, being able to connect your Game Boy Advance, having the Game Boy player, like the memory cards that actually worked. That was only $20 that would hold about almost 50 plus some games, like a lot of people just, they felt like it wasn't for them. I mean, even though it was at a budget price of $200, controllers was only about the same price as the memory cards, maybe $5 more. Because I think
the GameCube controllers were $25. They were $25. It was the Wavebirds that when they were $40, and I was like, oh man, wireless controllers. This changes everything.
And then you also got to factor in Japan and everything. It wasn't that much support in Japan from a lot of third party. They were bringing their stuff to PlayStation, and Japan at that time were really big into role playing games. And since PlayStation had them and not Nintendo, of course we're going to go there. They didn't really care for Xbox because that was more of a Western company. And you kind of can still see it till today that even though some Series X's are selling, it still doesn't have that appeal to the Japanese player. It's still got that Western look to it, and
it's getting there though. I mean, it's getting there. Like it's out of the, what month are we in? This is September when we're recording. Mm-hmm. So out of the first 9 months, it's outsold PlayStation 4 out of the 9 months over there. Like, the Series S is like an amazing thing over there. It's incredible how well the Series S is doing in Japan. Now, if you could just get some Japanese-centric games over there, which, all the rumors we heard during Tokyo Game Show this past week is that Xbox is working with, powerful the Japanese developers to make games for exclusive to Xbox, right? Like Kojima is supposedly making a game for them. So, which is like,
they're really trying to work it. Yeah.
Although Kojima might be like the worst example of a Japanese developer because all of his games are so Western oriented.
But my thing is, are you sure that you're catering to Xbox and I'll consider the Windows, that it is exclusive to that and it doesn't go to Steam or Epic Game or anyone else? Is that exclusive literally to the Microsoft brand and no one else? Because look at Death Stranding, that was supposed to be on Sony's platform. Now it's on PC through, I think, Sony or 505 Games, maybe doing it. But you would think that someone as big as Kojima making a lot of his games exclusively for PlayStation and having big sales, that Death Stranding would stay on PlayStation and not go anywhere else.
Yeah, but I don't know. But anyways, back to the GameCube. Do we want to talk about like our first memories of the GameCube? Like what? Because I think this era. Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to hijack the show. Sorry, I'm just gonna be like.
I was gonna ask you guys, did you ever have a GameCube? Like, when was your first time experiencing GameCube? Like, did you buy one? Was one gifted to you? What was your experience with the system?
Stephanie, you can go first.
Yeah, mine's kind of short. Well, okay. Anyway, so my first experience with GameCube was not a pleasant one. I never owned it because as a child, my parents believed video games were evil. So once I got the N64, that was kind of it until I was on my own. But my cousin, whenever he'd visit during the summer, he'd bring all of his video games, and so he brought his GameCube. Oh, I guess I did finagle a PS2, but my argument was the DVD player. And I'm like, ooh, GameCube, cool. I wasn't a fan of the controller, just personal preference. The weird disc size, but then he's like, let's play a game. And I was thinking, I don't know, just something fun and lighthearted. He pulls out Resident Evil 0. And I was still a younger kid at the time. And when I saw the intro to Resident Evil 0, I'm like, I'm done. I'm walking out of here. So I didn't have that was literally my first interaction with the GameCube. And then I just never played it, touched that console until maybe a couple years ago. I bought a used GameCube to play Wind Waker because I never played Wind Waker for all that time, and I really wanted to get up to snuff with all these Zelda games. And I overlooked Wind Waker because A, it was on a console I didn't have, and B, I didn't like the graphics at that time. So, and that's kind of it. It's unfortunately a very truncated experience with the GameCube.
What did you think when you actually played Wind Waker? Did you sit down and be like, "Oh, I was wrong about all of this"?
I definitely was. I loved it. I fell in love with Link's facial expressions. The GameCube is fun, little cute little square shape. But like I said, I just didn't have the most fun with the controller. There was just something I really didn't like about it. But again, maybe it's because I've been playing with, by now, like a PS4 controller and stuff like that. So it's, but man, I was like, I wish I had played not only Wind Waker, but got, had a GameCube to play other games. But that's why I missed out on a lot of key franchises like Pikmin, because Pikmin came out, right? The Pikmin 1 and 2.
Yep.
And Luigi's Mansion. Like, I missed out on some really great franchises on the GameCube.
Yeah, there's a lot of great things on the GameCube. I gotta tell you. My first experience was I wanted a GameCube for my birthday. And my parents went to Babbage's in the mall, and they found the last one. It was the purple one. And they brought it home, and I set it up, and my dad took me to Best Buy, and because they didn't want to buy any used games at Babbage's, because, who does that? But also, like, GameCube was pretty new, so I don't think they would have that many used GameCube games. But my dad took me to Best Buy, and I bought Luigi's Mansion, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, and the Jet Orange controller, because orange on a purple box looks awesome, right? So, yeah, I came home and played Tony Hawk with a bunch of my friends, and so I had some of my friends came over and I had the Dreamcast hooked up on one TV with NBA 2K in it, and the other TV had the GameCube hooked up to it with Tony Hawk on it. And so me and my friends were just playing both systems back and forth all night. And yeah, I mean, that was my first and probably one of my favorite memories of getting a Nintendo console at launch. But yeah, I mean, that was my first GameCube experience. But the GameCube became my primary console very quickly after that, with Pikmin, which I beat in one day. I bought the strategy guide with the game, came home, sat down, beat it in one day. I was like, oh my gosh, I beat this, and I turned around and started playing it again, because if you beat because the game takes place over 31 days, and if you beat it in under 30 days, you get a secret ending, and I don't really remember what the ending is, but the goal is to optimize your days and get better and I think you can actually beat the game in under 20 days if you're good enough. But yeah, I mean, that Pikmin day, though, is probably like the most memorable day because it was a weekend. It was cold out. It was snow. I remember it so specifically. It was like we were snowed in, and I just was in my room playing Pikmin. My mom made me lunch that day, and she was watching it. She's like, I don't understand this. You know. So, yeah.
All right. For me, I was working at JCPenney Outlet in Gurnee, Illinois, at Gurnee Mills. And it was a day that I got paid. I went to the bank, deposited my check, came back to the mall that I worked with, walked to Sears to go get my GameCube because no one was buying video games at Sears at all. So I was able to get my GameCube, another controller, my memory cards, some games, and everything. And I think I ended up spending about $350 altogether. And I remember just playing, I didn't get Luigi's Mansion at that time. I got something else and I was just playing it. And when I hooked it up to my TV and, put the memory card, the controller in, and whatever game I was about to play, and I just heard that, I was just like, I'm in. I was just like, oh, Nintendo, what are you about to give me? And it was just like I was playing whatever game I was playing with the controller, and it just felt so good in my hands. And I could not stop playing GameCube. And I just started building my library. And the thing about it was that I would buy all my new games for GameCube when it comes to third party and first party. My PlayStation and my Xbox only got used games. There were some games that were brand new, like Okami was brand new because I pre-ordered that because I had to have it. I'm like, oh, I love this animation. It's Capcom, one of my favorite companies. Here's $50. Bam. Seeing Road Scorcher 2 was just like, what is this game? And then played the demo for Metroid Prime. Went to the cashier at Sam Goody after playing the demo and paid the whole thing off for my Metroid Prime. Yeah. And the thing about it is I had to drive from my mall to another mall to get it. My Metroid Prime. But I was like anything Nintendo related, I was pretty much getting. I didn't get Geist or anything because I didn't really see it anywhere. But like
Geist, oh my gosh.
Eternal Darkness, I needed. Super Mario Sunshine, I needed because it was a Mario game and I love Mario. And then I hear that soundtrack and it was just like, yeah, this is it. Just everything. Every game that I played on the GameCube just felt right because of that control and everything. And I didn't get Pikmin until like a little bit later for it. I was just like, I wasn't into strategy games just yet. But I was just like, it's a Nintendo game, it's a new IP, it's from Miyamoto. I'm going to play it. And then Star Fox Adventure happened.
Yeah.
Like, Nintendo, what is this? Rare, what did she do? And then Tales of Symphonia. Tales of Symphonia happened on accident because I rented the game at Blockbuster.
Oh, I bet you were happy.
I rented the game. Well, yeah, because it was. I've never heard of the series. I love action RPG, so I was just like, I'll give it a try, and fell in love with the game. I beat it within the 5 days, returned it, went to at that time EB Games, bought a copy of it, and just continued to play because I'm just like, I feel like I missed more of this. I used to bring my GameCube over to my friend's house on Friday nights after work, and we would do Double Dash. We would do some of the WWE games, and we eat pizza and have drinks. We played GoldenEye. There was a 007 that we played on there. I think The World Is Not Enough. I think we played on
On
GameCube.
GameCube, there was 5 007 games on GameCube. There's
5?
eight.
Wow.
There's Agent Under Fire. There's Everything or Nothing, which was probably the one that you played. There's From Russia with Love.
Yeah.
There's Nightfire, and then there's GoldenEye Rogue Agent.
Okay. Yeah, I remember playing one of them on GameCube. I think it's the second one.
So that would have
'Cause I
been
tried Rogue
that would have been
Agent.
Nightfire was the second one.
Nightfire. Okay. And we would play that for a good while. Like we would have fun with the GameCube and everything. So yeah, I that was my experience with GameCube. And this is the thing. When I seen Wind Waker, I seen it in EGM for E3, and I heard the uproar. The game came out. I went and bought it, came back, and was just looking at this beautiful world, and it was just like this is something I've never seen because I didn't have just Jet Set Radio or anything because the Dreamcast was ending, and trying to get that game was sold out everywhere.
Oh my
at that
gosh.
time.
I pre-ordered Wind Waker to get the Master Quest edition of Ocarina because remember if you pre-ordered like I ended up getting 2 different pre-orders for Wind Waker because one pre-order you got the collector's edition disc with all 4 games on it. Was like I think it was Zelda 1, 2, Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. And then a second there was a second round of pre-orders where the bonus was the Master Quest. So I ended up having 2 pre-orders and I got my discs and then I ended up like I forget what I did with the Wind Waker the second copy of Wind Waker I ended up getting, but like I didn't want Wind Waker. I was really mad. I was one of those people that was upset that it was not more Ocarina of Time. But then like
I wasn't.
But look, when you start playing it and you like obviously it's like a very beautiful game, right, in its own right in a non we hadn't seen any Zelda like this before. So like once you get into it and realize, oh, this is a Zelda game and it's actually really good, and then you get into the dungeons and you're like, oh my gosh, these dungeons are really amazing, and then sailing around the world kind of openly, however you really kind of feel like it. Oh man, this is kind of neat, like sailing the boat and finding new areas to explore, and oh, maybe I shouldn't be here yet, is like that was a refreshing version of Zelda that we hadn't ever seen really before, right? Because like as great as Ocarina of Time was, it was a 3D version of Link to the Past, right? Like you have there's clear inspirations, right? The Dark World and it is future Link, whatever. And so like having just this whimsical kind of pirate adventure, right, is not dark because the previous 2 Zelda games were dark, and turns out we need that once in a while, right? And so I ended up loving Wind Waker after playing it, but I'm not going to sit here and be one of those people that is going to pretend and be like I liked it from the beginning, because I didn't. Especially because I saw the Space World demo of what Zelda could be.
And that's weird because you are an artist. And so when I love art.
I know,
and
but
so
up to that point, I think up to that point though, my only experience with Zelda had been Ocarina and Majora's Mask, right? So I wanted more of that. That's how I know, like that's how I knew the series is like this kind of dark tone with some like whimsical stuff happening in the world, but overall pretty dark story, and I wanted more of that. And so like when Twilight Princess got announced, I was beyond excited. I had that game pre-ordered 2.5 years before the game even came out, because it was supposed to come out. Didn't. Then they delayed it for the Wii release, obviously. And yeah, that's like, man, so side tangent for GameCube. So half of my GameCube collection is missing. Everything from A to L, which means Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess is missing. My collection begins at The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, and everything after that I still have. But like both Bat and Kados games, Fire Emblem game, all the 007 games, my very precious version of Twilight Princess, all gone. But the GameCube version of Twilight Princess is, I mean, obviously now the Wii U version is out, and I would say that that's the best version. But at the time, like, I stopped playing the Wii version and played the GameCube version on my Wii because I did not like the motion controls. And fun fact, Twilight Princess, the entire world is flipped from the Wii version.
Yeah.
Because in Twilight in the Wii version, most of the world is right-handed. You guys suck, by the way, you right-handers. Link was the only character I could relate to in my entire life. No, but you know, they changed Link to be right-handed to, you know, because people were right-handed, and using the Wii remote with your right hand with somebody swinging with left hand obviously didn't work out for Nintendo. But you know, I played Twilight Princess on the GameCube, and I've played through that game. I've probably put more hours into Twilight Princess by itself more than any other game, besides games that take long to beat, you know, or, you know, obviously Destiny probably smashes that by now by tenfold, but you know what I mean? Like, Twilight Princess is a very special game to me in a lot of ways that even transcend gaming in a lot of ways, which, you know, if you want to hear that kind of stuff, you can listen to After Dark. But like, Twilight Princess was the game that I always wanted, and I still think that that game gets a lot of hate for no reason. I think Twilight Princess has the best dungeons out of any Zelda game ever, still to this day. I get it. There's a lot of filler in between the dungeons, and the opening, although people like to say it takes like 3 hours, it takes maybe an hour, everybody. You just need to relax. But I love the characters. I love the world. I think Midna is the best side character in all of Zelda. I love the twist at the end with Midna. I really hope in some way, shape, or form that they bring that storyline back, like a Twilight Princess 2 at some point, because I want to see I want to go into the mirror again. But I don't know. Twilight Princess means a lot to me, and that's probably still to this day why the GameCube remains one of my favorite Nintendo consoles.
Honestly, I still have my GameCube version. He doesn't want me to ship it to him, Stephanie, and I've told Corey that I would send it to him.
That game is worth so much money. I would feel awful if you sent me that. Like, I would feel terrible. But we're not here to discuss that, Ed. We're going to put a pin in that conversation. Pin.
Okay.
That's a terrible hand motion. Never mind.
I know, Michael.
Oh, wow. Let's quickly get into the accessories. The Waybird Game Boy Advance player, Game Boy Advance link cables, the DK bongos, and a microphone for the GameCube for the game odometer, and some of the other stuff, which are some of the well-known accessories. Definitely Waybird and the Game Boy Advance player were like really big for it. If you look at some of the old Game Pro and EGM ads back in those days, they would have a guy sitting in the bathroom with his pants down playing this GameCube with the Waybird, and it actually worked for a lot of people. They were just like, to us, that was the first thing of wireless gaming, and it worked so well that people were testing it and everything. You to see how far could they go, and it was just like, yep, I could play my game while I'm in here. You know,
that was a way.
The game launch lineup for America was All-Star Baseball 2002, Batman Vengeance, Crazy Taxi,
Batman Vengeance was the game we were talking. I was trying to think about the other day. Sorry, I didn't. We were doing a Ninja Turtles thing, and we ended up talking about Batman again because the movie was so bad.
Oh,
that game. Sorry, got really unnecessarily excited about that.
You want to go ahead and speak on it, Corey?
No, I don't. I'm just saying we were trying to think of the GameCube Batman game that came out that was not very good because we were talking about Batman games. Never mind. Okay. Sorry, I just got... I'll shut up now.
Aww. So genuinely excited. Sorry.
Dave Marble Freestyle BMX 2, Disney's Tarzan Untamed, Madden NFL 2002, NHL Hits 2002, Star Wars Rogue Squadron 2 Rogue Leader, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3, Luigi's Mansion, Super Monkey Ball, and Red Race Blue Storm. Now, in Japan, they only got Luigi's Mansion, Super Monkey Ball, and Red Race Blue Storm. In Europe, they got a whole nother list of 15 games. So they kind of had about 30-some games when it released in Europe and Australia for the game.
I remember that was a really big deal. That all the regions got different launch games because people were because there were games that Europe got that we were looking forward to and ended up not coming for a while. And it was like, well, why did they get these games? And then all the magazines had them spoiled at the time, right? Like Nintendo Power was like almost revealing full spoilers of these games. And it was like, well, I don't want to know that. I want to play the game. Don't tell me that this game that's already out in Europe is coming in 6 months. I need to play this now, I don't know. Magazines.
Yeah, Europe got 22 FIFA World Cup, Bloody War, Primal Fury, Burnout, Cell Damage, Donald Duck, Quack Attack, Driven, ESPN, International Winter Sports, Extreme G3, International Superstar Soccer 2, Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, and Universal Studios Theme Park Adventures. I can say this. A lot of sports games came to the GameCube. I was looking at this list, I'm like, dang.
I played all my sports games on the GameCube, even though everybody told me I should play on PS2. I was like, no, I will play Madden and NCAA and have a whole memory card dedicated to these games. Doesn't matter. I will do it.
So, just some game submission. Super Mario Sunshine, Metroid Prime, The Legend of Zelda, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, Stephanie, did you want to speak on anything with that? Wind Waker or Twilight Princess?
Well, I mean, I played Twilight Princess, and it's a top game for me, but I played it on the Wii, so...
Okay.
Yeah. The Wii.
I like the motion controls, but I'm a weirdo.
Super Smash Bros. Melee, I know that was a big thing. Me and my friends played that. Animal Crossing, I did buy, and I love how just, building my house, carrying KK Slider. And the bad thing about it is because I had to go to church on Sundays, I missed the good sales of the game. And you couldn't mess with the time because the
see what happens when you go to church, Ed. Just kidding. I'm sorry. That was mean.
Pikmin 1 and 2, Eternal Darkness, Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes, Guys, Tales of Symphonia, Resident Evil 4, Killer 7, Beta Chaos. Is it Katos? Corey?
I've always heard Katos. I don't know. Shane, we need Shane.
Beyond Good and Evil, Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, Crash Bandicoot, The Wrath of Cortex. Now, this was funny because this is a Sony game. Well, Crash Bandicoot used to be owned by Sony, but it was given to Activision. And that's when they started putting it on multiple consoles. So, before Minecraft, Microsoft game came to Nintendo. In a way, Sony... two games, Spyro and Crash, was on the Nintendo platform.
Well,
they went third party.
Those were the first games that came out from Activision from Crash and Spyro, right? Because that was the big thing is like Sony sold them those IP to them for some reason.
Yes.
But anyways, we got Jak and Daxter out of that, so it's fine. Jak better than Crash. Jak 1 better than Crash. 2 and 3.
Sonic Adventure Sonic Adventure 2, Skies of Arcadia Legends, Ikaruga, Death Jet Vendetta, Donkey Konga 1 through 3, F-Zero GX, Battalion Wars, Burnout, Bloody War, Primal Fury, Prince of Persia, Sands of Time, Lost Kingdom 1 and 2. And there was a reason I put Lost Kingdom 1 and 2. That was from Software, the developers of the Dark Souls games. So that was kind of one of their first and only games that they put on Nintendo console. Besides Dark Souls that came out for Switch.
Yeah. So
Soul Calibur 2, Medal of Honor Frontlines. This was a really big thing for the GameCube for Medal of Honor because
you're just gonna skate over Soul Calibur like that? What are you doing?
We talked about Soul Calibur 2 early.
Medal of Honor was cool.
Would you like to speak on Soul Calibur?
Nope.
Would you like to speak on Soul Calibur 2?
It was awesome. Are you kidding me? Soul Calibur on GameCube was awesome. They had all of Link's weapons and the mirror and like all these weapons that were either in Ocarina of Time or in previous games. Like they had the big Goron sword, they had the white sword, they had the Master Sword, all these different shields, like the boomerang and stuff were in it. Like, oh my gosh, it was awesome. That was the game that like really got me into like trying to play fighting games for real at one point. Like I loved Soul Calibur 2 on the GameCube. And then you look at the PS2, they got Heihachi. Ooh, he can kick and punch real nice, I guess. And then Xbox got Spawn, which was like, I don't really understand the appeal of Spawn still to this day, but like you can't like when Soul Calibur was announced for GameCube and they announced that Link was in it, so many people went nuts.
And he was on the cover.
Yeah, and unless you had a Dreamcast, unless you were like one of the 8 million people that had a Dreamcast and like a subsection of those people were into fighting games, like nobody really knew what Soul Calibur was yet, And it's like,
well, we was confused at it.
Why?
Because Soul Edge was the game on PlayStation 1, and we didn't know that they changed it to Soul Calibur, but it's still
right. But like
changed the same characters. Ben at the time, Neko never explained it.
Right, but I mean there's a lot of games like that. We're still getting games like that, right? Like they just changed the name to Yakuza to Like a Dragon over here, So like that's not really new. But like Soul Calibur 2 was, I would argue that Soul Calibur 2 at the time, with Link being in it, was almost as popular as Smash Brothers was at the time, because Link was in it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It put a lot of fighting games on the map for me, at least, because I was not a big fighting game fan, and still not really to this day. But I still dabble in the fact that they put the fact that Nintendo let them put Link in it and like do terrible things to him, like straight up murder, impale him on things.
Well, this was the time that Iwata was over. He was president of Nintendo,
right? But like, yeah, but that game had been in development for like a year and a half by the time he had come over, right? So like, he didn't really have any kind of say over it, really. I mean, he did theoretically, but it's just, man, Soul Calibur 2. I urge anybody with a GameCube to find a copy of that game and just play it for a little bit, because Link was awesome in that game.
That's the one that's what everybody wants to come out, is Soul Calibur 2. But there
is an HD version.
The GameCube version.
There is, I know, there's an HD version of it on all the consoles, and they use the PS2 version because they couldn't get the rights to Spawn or Link from the other consoles. So, anyways, that's my rant about Soul Calibur 2. I could probably say more, but we've already been recording for an hour and we got a lot to get through. So,
okay, so Prince of Persia, since the time, that was like I said, a big one.
Great trilogy.
Frontlines. I really wish I had the full trilogy on GameCube. Because the thing about it is, just So I have the first Sands of Time on GameCube, but I had to get the other two games on Xbox because you could not find the Nintendo versions of the last two games. And Xbox, you found tons of them like in the used bin.
It's because nobody wanted Prince of Persia on Xbox. The only games people wanted on Xbox were Halo and Halo 2 and anything that looked and played like Halo. Doom 3, I guess, people wanted.
Oh, wow. Ugh, Doom 3. Didn't nobody want. You can barely see that game. Mario Kart Double Dash, Mario Party 47, Paper Mario 1000 Year Door. Big game. Paper Mario 1000 Year Door is a big game that everybody still to this day wants to come back.
We'll get it. I think we'll get it. I think there'll be an HD version of it. The more and more I think about this GameCube stuff on Switch, by the way, the more and more I think just the popular games are going to get HD remastered treatments. That's my,
Do you feel like there's ever going to be an NSO expansion pack on GameCube? Because I'm not really feeling so confident about that.
No, that's what I'm saying. Is like I think more and more. The more and more I think about it, I think we're going to get HD remasters, and they're going to sell them for $60 instead of a expansion pack. Which, honestly, except for the $60 a piece part, I prefer that over like just like a 4x3 emulated version. But I don't know. Because I think games like Metroid Prime would look fantastic in HD, and obviously the Zelda games look great in HD, and Mario Sunshine looks great in HD because remember we got it in that weird 3D All-Star Mario pack, and they left out the best 3D Mario game. Pikmin 1 and 2, like we saw what Pikmin looks like in HD with 3, right? Like Luigi's Mansion would look great. Like I think all these games will look awesome with an HD widescreen coat of paint on it. And the more and more I think about it, the more and more Nintendo's looking at like, oh, well, people want this GameCube stuff. We could like really print money if we just, hired some people and put a little bit of effort into it. Again, my opinion.
Yeah. Well, we got SXX3, Super Mario Strikers, Tomb Raider Legends, Turok Evolution, True Crime, both of them, Beautiful Joe 1 and 2, and Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness. That's just only some of the games. There's a ton more.
Man, Tomb Raider Legend on GameCube was really awesome. I love Tomb Raider Legend. I mean, it doesn't hold up now, obviously, but like at the time, it was really fun on the GameCube. So
I played it on Xbox. I still have my Xbox copy of it. I think that's the only Tomb Raider that came to Nintendo besides the mobile game.
No, the anniversary version. The anniversary version came to Wii because they made a big deal about motion controls and how you could use the motion controls to, use the whip to swing across gaps, and it was like, nice try, Square.
I remember Turok Evolution. I bought that for my birthday and did not like it. I used the cheat code to beat the game because it was terrible. Beautiful Joe 1 and 2. My heart loved those games and everything. Beautiful Joe is challenging. 2 is a little bit easier, but man, 1 they had that boss rush mode at the end of the game. And I'm like, Capcom, you are dragging this game longer than you needed to. But I loved it, and I think it's because of Beautiful Joe that I got Okami, because I love Clover, who made these games, and now Clover is Platinum Games. But like anything a lot of stuff that was coming out of Clover, I was getting their game. Besides the Melee game they have for Beautiful Joe, I didn't get that one.
Well, then you're not a true fan, Ed.
But so, do you remember or have you heard of any of these games, Stephanie, or anything?
Yeah, I've heard of many of them. one that kind of struck me that I did not know about was that there was a Tomb Raider game on the GameCube. That I did not know.
Yeah, it was like that weird trilogy that ended up coming out. It was like Tomb Raider Legend and then Tomb Raider Anniversary, which they reimagined the very first game. They like HD remade it, and it was actually really good, but they also tried to make the story fit in with Legend to be kind of a prequel to Legend. And then Tomb Raider Underworld came out, which was like the third game in that trilogy. But that trilogy was actually really good at the time. But Underworld didn't sell anything because, I mean, I think people were just kind of Tomb Raidered out at that point. And then they waited and brought out the new trilogy, which is also outstanding. But honestly, all those games are backwards compatible on Xbox. I highly recommend playing them if you are interested in any sort of history of Tomb Raider. Legend is awesome. Underworld is pretty good. And Anniversary is really awesome, except for the T-Rex fight. The first one. Not fun.
Well, yeah, see, I learned something.
Well, guys. Okay.
No, that's it. It's just like I heard of most of them. It's one of those things where at the time I was kind of like, maybe I'll get back to it when I eventually get the system. So I really hope, Corey, that you're right, that a lot of these come back either as a remake or an HD for the Switch.
Mm-hmm. I mean, honestly, I think the biggest thing is that, like, I hope that it's like it. For me personally, I want like HD versions of these games and have them run really well. But like overall, I think it would be a better thing if they came out in an expansion pass type thing, because I want more people to access a lot of these games, because obviously like nobody played any of these games because they were on the GameCube, right? And my biggest sadness is that Wind Waker, one of the best Zelda games ever, is stuck on 2 consoles that nobody bought, and stuff like that. Now, granted, I still think we're going to get Twilight Princess and Wind Waker HD on the Switch at some point, but in the meantime, like they're not afraid to do both. You can play the original and then you can play the HD version and see what they changed and see what they fixed and graphical enhancements, whatever. I think it would be better if they put it in a GameCube expansion pass type thing, because it would give people more access to these games for cheaper. And a lot of these games deserve to be played, and Mario Kart Double Dash with online play would be hilariously awful. And I mean, look, I know a lot of people love Double Dash. I think it's kind of overrated personally. It's fine.
Yeah, tag.
It's fine. It's better than Mario Kart 64 by a long shot, but
well, yeah.
My thing is, I think the GameCube has a lot of interesting, fun games. Like playing Mario Party with online play would be hilarious. And there's a lot of games that deserve to be played on that platform, and I hope people get the chance to do it. I'm gonna stop rambling now. Let me open the Discord so I can find out what
come to that time. Time for our ranking. I already know where I'm placing it at. There's no shadow of a doubt, but once Corey reads off what our ranking is, Stephanie, I'm going to start with you on where you will put the GameCube at.
I don't know if that's fair, because I've had the least experience with GameCube out of the three of us.
It's fine. Well, you can still rank it based off what you've done. That's the point. Yes. That's the point. It's fine.
Okay, well, I still need to kind of get into where everything stands ranking-wise.
All right.
Come on, Discord.
Yeah, I just got there. All right, so number one right now, sitting at number 1 is Nintendo 64. Number 2 is Game Boy. Number 3 is Super Nintendo. Number 4 is Game Boy Advance. Number 5 is NES. And so now we're here to rank the GameCube.
All right, so here's what I think. Given that I have minimal experience playing GameCube, but looking at it from an outside perspective or objective standpoint, it's a great library. I think a lot of games have kind of aged relatively well, and I only say that because I'm comparing it to my favorite console, quote unquote, the N64. But no matter how much nostalgia I have for N64, I think the GameCube's games, A, bigger library, B, better quality of the games that you can go back and play. So I would actually put, as much as I love the N64, I put GameCube at number 1.
Yeah, I mean, I think without a shadow of a doubt, GameCube is definitely number 1 of the systems we've listed so far.
Yeah, number 1. GameCube is.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go ahead, Ed. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's I was going to put it at number 1 because it's one of my favorite systems. I still own it. I still got games. There's so many memories that these games gave me. And it really felt something like I couldn't find on PlayStation or Xbox or anything. It's like to hear people still talk about the GameCube to this very day, and how people, I think, long for the GameCube, whether they want to catch up and experience the era that they missed, or see what the buzz about why people love this game. Because like a Paper Mario Thousand Year Door was one of the first game to the NSO. They did GameCube on GameCube. People who don't, and it's still at the $50 range. People who didn't upgrade or anything, I think would pay the $50 to get it, or pay the difference to get it, to play it, and see why people love this game. Why you see so many gifs of it, and why the writing in this game is so hilarious and everything. And why you see these Paper Mario, not rip-offs, but iterations, and like indie developers taking that style and making games out of it. You kind of see why Paper Mario Thousand Year Door has been a big influence over the original Paper Mario game. So, yeah. Plus I would love to play Eternal Dark and see what people say about that game.
Yeah. So I mean, I wonder how Eternal Darkness would hold up these days, because of just the way that, like, tube TVs were back then. It's like it really relied on the green soundbar, or like the static lines and stuff that you just don't see on TVs anymore. So sorry, we could have probably talked about that earlier, but it's fine.
Well, that's going to be it for Regular Nintendo, everyone. Stephanie, where can we find you?
People can find me on the internets at Klimov_author on Twitter and Instagram. Regularly Wednesday nights on the Boss Rush podcast, and After Dark and BossRush.net.
Yes. Corey, where can we find you?
You can find me at I am Corey HD on Twitter and Instagram. You can also find me on Nintendo Power Block, on the Boss Rush podcast, and various other things here on the Boss Rush Network.
You guys can find me at that Retrocode on Twitter and on Instagram. You can check me out also on the Discord. Check me out more on Nintendo Power Block, Nintendo Expansion Pass, Talked About, and other podcasts here on Boss Rush Network. And if you guys want to get this content earlier, you could join us on Patreon. Just go to bossrush.net to be able to find our Patreon page and join us and become a producer. Get some extra content in advance, I should say. With that, everybody, have a great week. Have a great weekend. Our next episode, we're ranking the Nintendo DS.
Woo!
And I wonder what we're all going to say about this system, because
trash.
The DS
Next.
is.
I'm just kidding.
DS is the DS is probably one of Nintendo's biggest hardware out of everything that they have sold.
I mean, it is. It's Nintendo's best-selling piece of hardware of all time. So,
yeah. Can you before we leave out? Can you believe that Nintendo has 3 hardwares that's over 100 million? So,
it's because one of them's not the GameCube, so who cares? Just kidding. Very impressive.
With that, everybody, we'll see you next time for Ranking Nintendo. Bye, everybody.
Good night.
Goodbye.